All right, let's make sure everything's going good here. All right, let's hope everything's live. Double check.
Yeah, I got the notification that you are live, so
Yeah, cool beans. All right, welcome to the American Patriots Pad. This is the first official live stream. Today I have my son and a friend of mine
mayonnaise.
who, well, Zachary, that's mayonnaise is one of my favorite condiments to have on French fries, but that's beside the point. But yes, we're here to talk today about what it was like being a geek when I was a kid back in the 80s, and it looks like Duck of Death hit Zach. Uh, Back in the 80s, late 70s, what it was like, you know, enjoying geeky things. Uh, it was not what a lot of people of today experience, even on the shows like Stranger Things, where you see the kids in that show
I
playing
pressed
Dungeons
the
and
wrong
Dragons.
button. Apologies.
It's all right. But yes, there were kids who liked Dungeons and Dragons. They liked sci-fi, they liked fantasy, but depending on where you lived, it was not an easy road to take. When I was in elementary school, you saw kids all the time with their lunch boxes that were Superman, Batman, the Hulk, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica. You'd see kids bringing their favorite toys with them to school. You'd see them bringing their favorite comic books with them all through elementary school. But as soon as you hit junior high or middle school, that started to really change big time. Uh, Fortunately, at the school I went to, there was two older kids that were into movies and geeky things. So, and they were amongst the popular kids. So it wasn't as bad at first, especially in junior high and middle school. You see, back before the United States embraced this thing called cosplay, these guys would do uh, some amazing costumes for Halloween. The one that everybody remembers the most of their matching costumes was the Ghostbusters. They even built the backpacks and the traps. Yep, they built the proton packs, they built the casters, and they built the traps and the goggles, the whole nine. They did everything. And everybody looked for every year for their Halloween costumes. And they did this all through junior high and freshman year in high school. And hi there, Art Madman. I hope you enjoy it. Today's post. Whenever you get off work, if we're still here, you're more than welcome to come on in. But these guys, that's what they did. But even over time, they stopped expressing their interest in the geeky things, be it movies or TV shows. When we were in elementary school and halfway through middle school, we would trade off on who watched what on Saturday morning cartoons. And then when we would ride the bus into school, we would tell each other on Monday mornings what we had saw on Saturday morning cartoons.
Which cartoons?
We switched it off. Be somebody one weekend would be watching the ABC, another person would be watching CBS, and then somebody would be watching NBC, and it rotated between like the three best storytellers on the school bus would rotate what channel of cartoons they would watch that week. as time went on and VHS became more popular, it stopped being as popular to do that because you would record the Saturday morning cartoons you weren't actually watching. So sometimes we would actually bring tapes and trade them around, saying these are the ones I watched. But that became rarer as we got older. But sometimes we would be telling the younger kids on the bus the stories about what cartoons we would watch because they still were interested in the cartoons. But by the time we had hit high school, that stopped. But if you continued enjoying your geeky stuff, you got bullied for it. There was a couple of guys at my high school that enjoyed.
Oh, looks like the Duck of Death.
Uh-oh. Who did it hit?
It hit you.
Oh, shoot. Well, I'm still here.
It just went quiet for a second. So wait, hold on. Just to put us all the way there, what were the shows?
Okay, you had stuff like Gummy Bears. It was Disney.
Gummy Bears had a TV show?
Yes, Disney's Gummy Bears had their own TV show.
I thought that shit was a candy.
Yeah, it was. Disney made it into a cartoon, though.
Of course, it was
hilarious.
Disney.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, these little bears, they would eat something that made them squishy and bouncy. Thus, they became gummy bears. Yes, it was a silly cartoon set back in medieval times. And our madman says in the chat, saying Saturday morning cartoon eating a ton of sugary cereal was fun moment in time. After these messages, we'll be right back. That's where that came from, was Saturday morning cartoons. And but we would watch Smurfs, the Schnorks. Yeah, me too. The intro music was good. You had so many. You had the Alf cartoon. You had Punky Brewster cartoon. I think it was ABC that had Schoolhouse Rock, which was these little cartoons that came on during the commercial times that taught little history lessons, or conjunction, junction, what's your function, which was about contractions and adverbs and so on. Saturday morning cartoons is something the kids today have. They can watch cartoons at any time they want, thanks to that little artificial brain called a smartphone. Or you've got entire cartoon networks now on cable TV. Hi, Suzanne. We had Looney Tunes, Tailspins, Smurfs, Snorks. Let's see, what else? Let's see, I already said Alf, Punky Brewster, Rubik's Cube. Anything that caught on in toys had a Saturday morning cartoon. G.I. Joe had a Saturday. I can't remember if it was just on Saturday. No. G.I. Joe had a Saturday morning cartoon, but they was mostly after school cartoons. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, the cartoon, came on in the afternoons. You also had Disney also had an afternoon cartoon block that included the Gargoyles, which I still love the Gargoyles. There are adults to this day who loved Gargoyles.
That brings me back.
Oh, yes. It was a cartoon that was meant for mature children and young adults because the storylines on it was really good and really mature. And it had a little bit of mythology from a whole, the Batman animated series, the Justice League that evolved into Justice Unlimited. You had the Superman animated series that was all done by Bruce Timm. And you had I mean, all these really, really good cartoon shows on Saturday mornings. And Herculoids, Thundar the Barbarian, Valley of the Dinosaurs, that which was really good. The Valley of the Dinosaurs, believe it or not, came out at the same time as the Marty Krofft Superstars. Land of the Lost came out. It was released on the same day, and it had a similar theme, except for the fact, instead of it being just a father and his son and daughter, the cartoon was a mother and father, a son and daughter, and their dog going into having an accident and ending up in a prehistoric time, living alongside a caveman family that mirrored their own. And the mom and dad were teachers. I can't remember what, I know one of them was a scientist who was teaching the cavemen how to do science stuff, while the cave people were teaching them how to do basic survival in a prehistoric environment. And it was a good show. It really was. But most people don't remember it because, like I said, it came out at the same time that Land of the Lost did, and Land of the Lost being live action became more popular, I think. But then again, it was Marty Krofft super things. No, it wasn't Flintstones, actually. Flintstones came out a lot earlier. But the Valley of the Dinosaurs, if you look it up, there is a page on Wikipedia about them that gives you the basic rundown of their plot line and anything. But oh God, Rocky and Bullwinkle. I still enjoy Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they're funny as all get out. But you had
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
You also had Garfield, Heathcliff the cat. Let's see. I mean, there was so many really good Saturday morning cartoons that nowadays most people completely forget about. There was even one cartoon where this kid would turn into a car. That if he got too hot, he would turn into a car.
That makes no sense.
Yes, it didn't. Some Saturday morning cartoons was way out there and kind of nonsensical, but they were funny. But anyway, if you still enjoyed these things, you would get bullied. If you started liking nerdy stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, you got bullied. Heck, Dungeons and Dragons, especially because we had the Great Satanic Panic back then, where you had fundamentalist Christians running around screaming that it was worshiping the devil. And at the school at the church that I went to up in the mountains, they invited some dude that was going around from church to church spreading the quote unquote gospel of the satanic panic that Dungeons and Dragons was worshiping Satan. And I had a friend that I went to middle school with, junior high school, who played Dungeons and Dragons and brought the books to school with him. And there were several other guys that also played that brought their books, and we would read those books during our lunch breaks. And I enjoyed it because of the artwork. There was an artist by the name of Larry Elmore. His artwork style really inspired me when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And
some pretty inspiring illustrations in those books too, let me tell you.
Yes, they were really good. Really, really good.
Really good.
Had some hot chicks in them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, but I had read these books and I didn't see any of the stuff that this guy was telling us about in church. And I was saying it to my mom and she was like, hush, hush, hush. And the dude heard me saying, that's not in the books. That's not in the books, Mom. He goes, see, even here, Satan's touch has reached your children here, and all this other happy horse shit. And on the ride home, Mom and Dad was giving me the stink eye until I said, look, Mom, Dad, you always told me not to believe something until you've read it yourself. Why are you treating this as any different? And Mom and Dad looked at each other and said, he's right. Well,
shit, you're right.
Well, what ended up happening was one of them drove all the way up to Asheville to where there was a bookstore that was selling Dungeons and Dragons box sets, and they bought one and brought it back. And they opened it up, sat down at the kitchen table, spread everything that was in the box set out, and they started reading everything that was in that box set. And they finished it, read it all in one night. And they were asking me questions about it. And I was like, see, did you see any of what they said was in there? That's in there. And Mom and Dad said, no, it's not. And Mom said that her and Dad was so proud of me, but they didn't say it at the time. They were just in shock that somebody was going around to churches and lying so blatantly about it. So they called up our pastor and said, Bruce, you got to come over here. We just got done reading the Dungeons and Dragons box set that this guy was talking about, and none of what he said was in it is in this stuff. And Bruce Bradley, he liked to argue. He would call my mom up and say, put your mom on. I need to argue. And I'm like, okie dokie. And I'd open the door to wherever Mom was at and say, Mom, it's Pastor Bradley. He wants to argue again. What about? He says he don't care. He just wants to argue with you. And she's like, oh, okay. And then they'd get on the phone for several hours and just argue about whatever. And but he came over and they had packed up everything in the box and handed it to him. Says, once you get done reading it, give it back. And he's like, okay. He read it, came back, sat down and said, we've been lied to. There's none of the worshiping Satan in here. And I was like, I told you so. But you kept saying that I didn't know what I was talking about. And Pastor Bradley actually is the one that apologized. Said, I'm sorry. And afterwards, that Sunday, he says he got up there and his entire sermon was about people giving false testimony and false witnesses to a church and lying through their teeth about something else. And he sat there and he held up the box set and he says, I have read everything in here and none of it is worshiping Satan or supporting the worship of Satan. It's not in here. This is basically cowboys and Indians and cops and robbers, but with rules to keep you from fighting with each other. When you said, I shot you. No, you didn't. That's it. That's all this is. It's all a game for children to play imagination. And it wasn't long after that the people up there ran him off because he did not toe the type of line that they wanted. And then they brought this guy in. I'm not going to use his name because, well, if I did that, people would know who the hell I'm talking about. But
yeah,
he ended up turning that church into almost getting kicked out of the Southern Baptist Association for having become a cult. They were right on the edge of being a cult because I make the joke of I went to churches, Southern Baptist churches is why I don't like Southern Baptist that much, where they would take up an old copy of the King James Version of the Bible and shake it around and go, if you don't believe here, well, I tell you this here book says, not what you read to see it to say, but what I tell you to say. It says, you're going to burn in hell and damnations for all time because you don't believe it says what I tell you it says. I don't want you reading it. I just want you to take my word for it. Kind of sounds like a lot of politicians nowadays, if you think about it. But I digress. That's what type of a church I grew up in. And I've got people that look at me and go, wow, you grew up in that type of a church and you still believe in God? Yeah, I'm not an idiot. Yes, I believe in God. I've died 5 times. Come on. I've met the dude with kind eyes that kept sending me back but wouldn't tell me why.
That must have been quite an experience.
Yeah, it was. It was something that that changed me. I've said it before. I used to hate the taste of yogurt, but after I died and came back, I actually enjoyed the taste of yogurt. I like it. It tastes pretty good to me now. But
Minecraft gory.
How the fuck is Minecraft gory? It's
Yeah.
cubes. It's squares. I've been playing Minecraft like since I was probably 5.
I mean, even dismemberment would be pretty tame in Minecraft, and I don't think it has.
Not gonna lie, it would be pretty cool and funny if there was gore in a game like Minecraft. Because how family friendly it seems,
and have it be like realistic. It's like it's all Minecraft graphics, but then as soon as you dismember something, it's like Resident Evil graphics.
Well, there technically is a game like that. It's called Terraria.
Yeah. But anywho, like I said, that was the churches I grew up in. And the Great Satanic Panic, which literally caused all kinds of issues. It's one of the reasons why, even though I liked a lot of stuff that Tom Hanks did, I'm still aggravated about that movie that he made way back when that basically was really messed up, where they were attacking role-playing games. Then you got the whole case where the kids were playing at a college and one of them ended up losing his flipping kid. He had issues, and they tried to blame all of his issues on Dungeons and Dragons instead of all the issues that he had, because he had a buttload of other issues. Okay. Dude was messed up in the head to begin with. And that was unresolved issues that he should have been getting some help for, but he wasn't getting it at the time. And, which I think was mostly a cultural issue back then, where people that had issues just was told, suck it up, buttercup, don't think about it, just move on, which caused a lot of problems for people.
Well, and there was a lot of the bullying too. So like when you say bullying, what, like, so bullying is like, you say bullying, and I've got all these different ideas about what that looks like. Like, I mean, but like I was watching a movie or something. What actually happened? Like, was it name calling? Was it being told to go away? Like, how often was it happening? Who was it? You know, all that.
All right. It starts out usually with name calling is how it would start.
Like what kind of names?
Oh, you're a geek. You're an idiot. You're a child. If my baby sister was here, she'd be able to tell you a whole lot more, because when she was bullied, it was a lot worse and not as physical as what I ended up going through. I actually got beat up for being geeky and not caring that I was going through that shit. Because to me, words just roll off the back, even though it pisses you off and it hurts you. What hurt me more was the fact it was people that I knew that liked the same stuff I did, but they were piling on with all the others so that they would fit in. That hurt me more than what they were saying.
Okay.
Because to me, it was a betrayal of loyalty and friendship and love.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like that. I mean, I had some stuff like that myself where, but not for reasons having to do with being geeky or anything. But I mean, you know, like there were people who just would not want to be friends because they didn't want to get picked on too, or things like that. And I mean, so like I'm familiar with like that kind of betrayal. If you were to estimate, like what proportion, like what percentage of the student body would you say was was the ones who were doing the bullying, and what percentage would you say were the ones who were like the betrayers?
Well, it was mostly people that was more concerned about how they were being seen. So it was not as big of a group that was doing the actual bullying, but the people who would jump in and dogpile onto it, so they would feel like they were part of a bigger group would. I know in schools nowadays, you've got these cliques still to this day that are like that. And I've heard the horror stories about these cliques of girls that will spread lies and rumors about other girls just to try to ruin their reputation to make themselves look better. Well, in many ways, it was like that back then.
Holy shit. I am currently spinning 3 fidget spinners in one hand.
Cool.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna make it 4.
But like I said, it's one of those things that people nowadays don't have to worry about, because being a geek and not fitting in is where everybody else is wanting to go. Why do you think there's kids out there who are saying, I'm a cat? So they will stand out. And to me, that was...
I am going to show you guys this. Wait, I'm going to rest my phone on something real quick. Kind of put it up.
Uh-oh.
Hit the wrong button. All right, show it.
It's falling. All right, I'm going to put it up here. All right. Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the autistic one.
That's one
cool.
I would make it 5, but I can't.
Well, how about this? Well, Zach, I mean, what do you experience these days? I mean, are you like you're interested in a lot of geek culture kinds of things too, right?
But I actually don't get judged for it. Actually, a lot of people actually ask me more about it, and it's way more common nowadays in younger people.
Yeah, and that's why I keep getting upset when us old timers who built the safe spaces for the fandoms, who kept the fandoms alive, are being kicked out of their fandoms because they still love what made this fandom great, and they're standing up for it. We're not saying you can't enjoy this new stuff that you're wanting to bring in. Just don't try to push us out.
Yeah.
We like Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca. We like the original Star Wars. We even like the prequel Star Wars.
I prefer the prequels.
We don't like this new stuff where you had some really good character concepts, but you fell so flat with them. It's a travesty. I mean, Finn had all the qualities to be an awesome character. He used to be a stormtrooper who turned against the New Order, or whatever you want to call them.
Imagine that as a character, like a stormtrooper turned Jedi.
Exactly. That was a missed opportunity, big time. There was
I swear to God, they used him holding the lightsaber in the poster as bait for people to be like, holy shit, there's going to be a black Jedi. This is awesome. But then they were like, nah, fuck that. It's going to be a woman that pretends to be a Skywalker when she's a Palpatine.
Yeah. Some of the Lego Star Wars holiday specials seem to indicate, I mean, like if you can take that, they're not really canon, but I mean, they have Finn, studying with Rey, and that seems like, maybe somewhere they had that intention that they abandoned too. Like it's quite possible they meant for that to be the case.
Well, like I've said before, there's no such thing as bad characters, but there is bad writers. That's why it happened. Okay. And I am really aggravated with the way Kathleen Kennedy ran Lucasfilm into the ground. Same thing with Kurtzman and Star Trek. And what Feige did with the Marvel Cinematic Universe pushed out the people that was keeping it as close to what the fans wanted as possible. Now, when Disney bought these brands, they stated, we want to buy these brands so we can get the boy market as well as all the girl market. We've got the girl market locked up tight. Now we want to entertain little boys. Well, what did they do?
Hey, no.
But as soon as they got those brands, they started turning them into girl brands. And there's no other way to put it. I mean, they pushed out all the male characters and put female characters in the lead roles. Now, I have no problem with lead female characters. In fact, there are good female lead character movies and franchises out there. Resident Evil, Mila Jokovich's Alice.
But that does have to be written right, honestly.
Well,
yes, it does.
It's not that they turned it. I mean, they did this, but they kept the same. So I mean, essentially, they've just done like a gender role reversal, right? So I mean, like you have all of these, and to avoid traits, I want to avoid words like masculine and feminine because of the connection there. I want to say yin and yang. So like yin characteristics are things like kindness, compassion. Yang characteristics are things like ambition, honor, those kinds of things, right? So like all of those are part of a balanced human being, right? But at the same time, like people might Snow White is the hero of the story through kindness and compassion and showing that, like people band together around that as a quality, right? So Snow White's a very yin heroine. Whereas, but it seems like they've taken all these characters that they've just gotten rid of and, gotten rid of positive traits from the yang characters and heroes of yore, and now they've instead have all these yang characters. So they try to make Rey a yang character without any development, without any showing any struggle. That character could have been cool without, if we'd just shown progression of being bad at something and then getting better, for example.
Well, the way it feels, this is coming from an observer who's been watching this stuff for, let's see, I'm 53 now, so that's close to 50 years now. They take a character, hi Lemon Pie, and they make a male character and they cast a female actress to play that character. Look at what they did with Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. They wrote this character without any femininity. They had her act. If it had been a male in that role, I still would have hated the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was too yang heavy. That character was too yang heavy, not enough yin.
Yeah, Suzanne, I have a hard time saying his name too, so I just call him.
It's Kshtimala. So that's how you say it. You say it. It's Kshtimala.
Well, I'm going to call you Cash, man. That way I don't butcher it too badly. But like I said, they've done this with so many characters. They've created girl boss after girl boss after girl boss that is supposed to lead these movies and these TV shows, and they all fail. Now, if you like these things, that's good. I'm not telling you not to like them or telling you you're an idiot or you're a bigot, a phobe, or anything else. I'm just saying it's not selling on the bigger market. And oh, cool, Suzanne. I'd love to. Just tell me how to do it, and a little later, and I'll set you up as my first wrench. But like I said,
I'm offended I wasn't your first choice, father. I feel betrayed.
Well,
you want to be accused of nepotism now.
Yeah. Plus the fact you're one of my co-hosts, so I can't make you
fair enough.
But like I said, this has nothing to do with all that. When Nadine, she likes Discovery. I don't know why. It just doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. It really doesn't. And having a character who's doing, Zach just popped off again, duck of death, I guess. But she doesn't feel like a Starfleet officer. She does whatever she wants to do, and she gets away with it. The difference with James Kirk and her is massive, because Kirk is willing to accept getting his pee-pee slapped when he does something he knows he shouldn't have done. He's willing, he was willing to go to
wrong button again. Sorry.
He was willing to get punished when he did something wrong for the right reasons. But she blames it. Oh, I had to do this because such and such did this. And there was entire episodes where they were making the white dudes look bad so they could make their characters look good. And I'm like watching that going, I can't watch this. You can enjoy it all you want, but this isn't Star Trek to me. And I've been watching Star Trek since it started, since I was born, pretty much. My mom loved Star Trek so much. When I was born, I had pointed ears and my eyeballs were solid blue. Even the whites of my eyes were blue. We've got baby pictures of me with little blue marbles for eyeballs. And it scared the bejesus out of the nurses. Almost as much as me doing push-ups as an infant, because I was only a few hours old and I was doing push-ups so I could look around the nursery to see where all the other crying babies were at. Because Mama said it scared one of the nurses so much she was screaming, Miss Spake, your baby, and it caused my mom to lose her shit. She's like, what's wrong with my baby? You ain't gonna believe what he's doing. And she got there and she said I was pushing up like a little turtle and looking around the room. And when Zachary was born, like I said, I held him in the palm of my hand when he was born, and he opened his eyes and looked at me for the first time. And I swore something to him, and I've not been able to keep it yet. But just know how much I love you, son. That's all I can say is I love you. But like I said, when you've got these girl boss characters that just don't feel right, it's like Holdo in The Last Jedi. The actress that played her did not take the role seriously. Whenever she fired her blaster, they had to cut out the fact that every time she would pull the trigger, she would say, in real life, pew, pew, while filming. No, shoot, we lost. Yeah, Red Man. It's holding our little ones when they're born is amazing. Duck of death, huh?
Yep.
Well,
so let me see here. We came here, and our intention was to talk about the
bullying. Yes, we got to get back on that.
So, like, the way that being a nerd or being a geek went from being like, it started out and it was this non-acceptable thing, led to bullying, and somewhere down the line, like here we are today, and somewhere down the line now it's actually kind of cool.
Yes,
right? It's a positive thing. So like, and then maybe we can so let's get a little bit more about like what it was like, and then we can speculate about where that transition occurred.
Yeah.
Well, when I went into the Navy, I put away all of my stuff, so I stored it so it wouldn't get messed with while I was away. And my baby sister really missed me, so she would go and break into where I had locked up all of my stuff, and she was wearing my clothes, she was playing with my toys and reading my comic books. I'm grateful she hid my comic books, because my mom threw away all of my clothes and all of my toys to keep her from messing with them. And I'm thankful because all of my comic books it was my G.I. Joe collection, the G.I. Joe Real American Hero collection from Marvel, my X-Men collection, my classic X-Men collection, and all my other comic books survived thanks to the fact that Becca was able to hide them somewhere where Mom couldn't find them to throw them away. Imagine my surprise when I came home from the Navy and I was like, I'm going to have civilian clothes again to wear. And get home and where's my clothes? Oh, I had to throw them all out because Rebecca was wearing them all the time. Where's my toys? I threw them out because your sister was playing with them all the time. Where's my comic books? And Becca says, I hid them. I was like, thank you. But because she liked my G.I. Joe comic books and not My Little Pony or Care Bears or Barbie and stuff like that. Let's see. There was 13. Yeah, a 13-year age difference between me and Becca. She was in elementary school when I was in boot camp. Gotcha. But she got bullied for loving Star Trek, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, X-Men, and she got bullied so bad. I actually ended up reading. She had wrote a thesis paper when she went to college about being bullied and how bad bullying was. And she had accidentally left it out and asked me if I would read it and tell me what I thought of it. So I read it. And when I found out that there was multiple times that she was bullied so bad by the other girls in school, she almost committed suicide.
Damn.
More than once. That caused me to get so upset. So very, very upset that even to this day, if I could find out who those little bastards were, I would go there and beat them with an inch of their life. Mm-hmm. And when the cops showed up, I'd be like, okay, I'm ready for the pee-pee slap. But these sons of bitches almost caused my baby sister kill themselves when they were in school together. And odds are I'd be going to jail and people would be like, what are you doing here? I beat the living fuck out of the motherfuckers who caused my baby sister to almost kill herself because they bullied her in school. Oh shit, dude, that's fucked up, you know. And I've known some pretty hardcore criminals that would be like going, I'd be in jail right now if they did that to mine, you know. But yes, the bullying was real. It isn't, oh, you misgendered me or you didn't get my pronouns right type of stuff back then. It was actually somebody balling up their fist and punching you in the stomach, punching you in the face, punching you in the kidneys, kicking you in the goodies. It was real violence back then. So you either A, took the butt whoopings that they were throwing around all the time, or every now and again, like I did, I would fight back after I got to the point to where I just had enough. And I whooped a football player's ass.
Damn.
I threw that sumbitch around the math class by his throat. He was 6 foot. He was over 6 foot tall, and I was barely 5'2" at the time. I whooped his ever-loving ass in front of the entire math class. There was this one guy that had moved in who came from California. He was a big surfer dude. I'm talking, this dude looked like he could have been a quarterback or a linebacker. He was 6'3" and smelt. I mean, you know the guy, the bigger Winchester brother from Supernatural?
No.
Okay, this dude's big. He's huge. He's not the Jensen one, but the other one. The one that's like a head taller than the other one, and he's got the long kind of hair, and the girls all go, oh, and cream their jeans by just thinking about his existence in the world.
I feel like I need an adult
Yeah, you probably will.
because I do not know what any of those words mean.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
Yes, your innocence is noted. You're gonna make some young lady a very, very happy person one day. But he was huge. I mean, our football coach was our PE teacher, Bud Grissom. We called him Blood and Guts. He was a United
I'm
States.
attempting a fifth fidget spinner.
He
Please
was
pray for me.
he was a drill sergeant in the Army, and he was also the head football coach. And
I got a fifth fidget spinner working.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly, Suzanne. Exactly. It was hilarious because he respected me to be called a flyweight because I couldn't even lift the bar, and I was so tiny and so lightweight. I was actually bench pressing my own weight by the time I got through my freshman year. But he would watch me deal with the bullies by I just let the words roll off my back, just take it and keep going. And then when the ass whoopings happen, I'd stand back up, brush myself off, and walk on away. And he would ask me every now and again, why don't you fight back? And I would say, that's just not the way I do it.
Suzanne's asking to see the 5 fidget spinners. So
all right, here we go.
People get what the people want to say.
Oh, there it is.
I got 5 fidget spinners in one hand.
Sweet.
I am the true god of autism, but only I could attempt this and succeed. I just have
Cool.
2 in 1, gap.
Cool. Awesome. But like I said, after a while, what caused me to finally fight back my freshman year was the football player ended up breaking my glasses that my mom.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to go do something real quick.
All right. They broke my glasses that my parents barely had enough money to pay for. Okay. And that's what caused me to say, oh, hell no. But the surfer guy that they kept begging to join the football team didn't want to join the football team because he didn't like American football. He liked soccer and he liked baseball. Those were his 2 sports. And he was able to pull the football player off of me when the football player beat me down in the math class, while the teacher was purposefully ignoring what had just happened. Well, once he got the football player off of me, he pushed him out of the way and says, "Sit down and do your." And then he was about to turn around and look at me to see how I was doing, and he said that he felt me jumping over him, and he felt me brushing across his hair as I leapt over him. And remember, he's over 6'3", and I jumped over him and landed feet first onto this football player's chest with my hands going straight for his jugular veins. And I grabbed that sumbitch by his throat, literally. Yes, I'm calling him Cash. Yeah. And then I used my weight to pull the football player down to the ground so I could be able to fight him on more even terms. And I slung him around for a little bit, threw him against the wall, and let his throat go. And the description was he threw 3 good punches at me, and I dodged all of them. But the 4th punch, I let him hit me in the face. And they said, I just smiled at him and said, now let's dance. And then I grabbed him by his throat again and started swinging him around by his throat like a rag doll. I was swinging him around like a rag doll. And the math teacher was like losing his ever-loving shit. And the people in the classroom was like going,
Yes.
that's cool, because little tiny me who would take an ass whooping all the time finally fought back. And when it was done and over with, my mom had to come off the mountain, which took an hour and a half for her to get to the school. So I'm sitting in the vice principal's office waiting for my mom to show up. His mom shows up first. And she knows he got into a fight with another student. And she comes in and was expecting the other student to be, a big guy, because they were saying, Mom, I got messed up really bad in this fight. And she comes in, sees little old me. And her first question while standing there in the vice principal's office, who started the fight? And the football player was like, well, and that was when the receptionist goes, oh, your son did. So your son started the fight by breaking his glasses. And she looks over at me and she says, can I see your glasses, son? And I reach into my pocket and I pull each piece out and set them in my hand, which was 5 pieces of glasses now sitting in my hand. And her eyes get really big. She glares at her son and says, you broke his glasses? Uh-huh. And I put my glasses back in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yep. But after they went in to have a talk with the vice principal, and then my mom shows up. She sits down, comes in and sees me. The first words out of her mouth was, you didn't start it, did you? No, Mama, I did not start the fight. And the secretary in reception, she's sitting there bouncing in her chair going, no, he didn't start it, but he certainly finished it. And Mom looks at me and goes, so you finished it? Yes, Mama, I finished it, but he broke my glasses. And she gets this look on her face and goes, is that why you fought back? And I said, yes, Mama, he broke my glasses. And she shakes her head and sits down. We'll figure a way of getting you new glasses. And I'm like, we barely afforded them the first time. And she's like, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And then the vice principal comes out, gets me and Mom, brings us in there. And while we're sitting there, Mom goes, I understand he broke your glasses. Can I please see just how bad they are, see if we can fix them? And as I handed each piece of my broken glasses, the football player's mom kicked the shit out of him with each piece as it came out of my pocket. And you could hear him going, ow, 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 as she was kicking him as taking it out. And she looks at my mom and says, Miss Spake, I will pay for a new pair of glasses. And Mom's like, no, it's okay. We'll be able to take care of this. And then as the football player and his mom was getting ready to leave, she goes, I know you live up on the mountain and it takes you a while to get here, because the punishment's going to be after school detention for 10 days. I will drive your son home. And Mom's like, no, we've already got several people who've promised to drive him home. And after they left, the vice principal looked at my mom and says, I really don't want to have to punish Richard Alvin, because he was getting beat up all the time and he would just take it. And he finally fought back. And he looked at me and he says, I'm going to go out on a limb, but the reason why you fought back was because he broke your glasses, right? And I was like, yes, sir. That's why I did it. That's why I fought back. And he goes, I figured as much. And he looked at my mom and says, we can get a fund to pay for new glasses. And Mom said, no, we've already got it taken care of. All of our friends are going to buy him a new pair of glasses. And, well, do you have a way of getting him home because after school detention? And Mom's like, yes, we've got 3 people who've already volunteered to drive him home. And our next door neighbor, Mike and Libby, they had, because Mom, when they called Mom up, Mom's like, Alvin fought back? yeah, he fought back and he beat up a football player. And she's like, okay, I'll be there as soon as I can. And she hung up the phone. First person she called was Dad and said, Rick, you're not going to believe this. Alvin just beat the shit out of a football player who broke his glasses. And Dad's like, he did what? And she goes, I'm going to call Libby and tell her so she can come over and watch Lar Jane and Becca while I go down to get him from school. And so she calls up Libby and says, Libby, can you please come over here? I've got to go to school because Alvin just beat up a football player who broke his glasses. And our next door neighbor's going, he did what? And she's like, oh my God, this is awesome. And she calls her husband at work. And by the time everybody got to the school and everything, it had already got out to everybody that was in our friend group. And Mom's driving me home, and she's like, I think you deserve this. And we stopped at Hardee's and ate roast beef sandwiches.
Nice.
What's that?
And muscles.
Roast beef sandwiches are really good.
The place was.
The what?
The place was.
Oh, Hardee's. It's a fast food place.
I thought you said Arby's.
No, they sell roast beef sandwiches for the most. That's their premier thing.
Yeah. Back then, Hardee's was the only place you could get a roast beef sandwich other than Arby's, but Arby's was so few and far between, it wasn't even funny. And my favorite sandwich that was the roast beef sandwich, and that was I got rewarded for fighting back with roast beef sandwiches. We get back to the house, and our house was full because Dad was there. Several of the people that worked with my dad at the golf course was there. Our next door neighbors were there, and they're all looking at me going, so you beat the shit out of a football player. And I'm like, can we see the glasses? And they went to the kitchen table, and I laid out the pieces of my glasses, and Dad's sitting there looking at it going, I think I can solder them back together again to hold you over until we can get a new pair of glasses. And before everybody left, there was enough money that was laid on the table to buy me a new pair of glasses. And Dad welded my glasses back together again so I would have my glasses until we could get a new pair. And that Monday, we go into the class. Oh, always go for the throat and go for the giblets. Always. But get to class. My first class of the week was PE with Coach Blood and Guts Grissom, who's also the football coach. And he looks at me. He comes out doing his thing as we're all lined up against the wall. And I'm like, oh shit. And the football player's like going, oh fuck. And he walking down the line of where everybody, all the boys are on one side and all the girls are on the other side. He's walking back and forth. And he goes, I hear somebody got into a fight. And I hear somebody got their glasses broke and whooped the living shit out of one of my football players who should have known better not to throw the first punch. And then he looks at me and I'm like, uh-oh. And he looks down at me and he goes, let me see your glasses, son. And I handed him my glasses and he goes, somebody put them back together again pretty good, and handed it back to me. All right. Go watch other kids play basketball. It's raining outside. And then he turns to the football player and says, but you, on the other hand, you're running laps in the basketball court. No, you're running laps on the track. But it's raining, coach.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
So rain or shine, that football player did not get to play football for the rest of the fucking season. Instead, he was running laps. They had him running laps. Oh God.
Imagine if he was just running laps around the entire football pitch, like during the game.
Yes, that's what he was. That's what they had him do. He had him doing.
Nice. That feels good to hear.
And then that was my freshman year. My sophomore year's fight was pretty much the same. They knew not to break my glasses. They knew that. You could pretty much get away with anything but breaking his glasses. But this time, they were pushing me around and they caused me to knock somebody down and break something of theirs. And then the ass whooping started. And I fought back. And like I said, I got in trouble for fighting back. And, but this time I did not get stuck with after school detention. Thank God. I got punished in other ways. But fortunately, that was the last school fight I got into with a bully, because they kind of learned.
That's funny.
You get away with bullying him for a while, but once you get to his point of he's had enough, he's gonna whoop your ass. Don't fuck with him. And every now and again, you get somebody that would get all uppity and think, "Oh, he's not that bad. He's not that bad. I can take him. I can take him." About this time, several football players show up and are looking at him going, "Whatever you do, don't piss him off." Why? You see that guy over there? He used to be a quarterback. Yeah. And now he's just a regular running back type dude. Yeah. He's that way because he got his ass kicked by that little dude. Don't fuck with him. And they're like, "I don't believe you." And then everybody else in the class is like going, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." And but yeah, I mean, I'd always go for the throat and to take out the person that was causing the problems. But I'm not glorifying fighting, but I am saying that if you get pushed hard enough and you've got to fight, you go for the jugular. You have to take them out as soon as you possibly can to keep collateral damage from happening.
Yeah. There really isn't any time for you to be fighting, but there are times for you to fight back.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-defense. It always has to be in self-defense.
That's why I always aim for the knees and ankles.
Yeah, that too. But as somebody who's got really messed up knees and ankles, I try not to do that to anybody because I know how much it hurts.
I do it because it hurts. Teaches them a lesson.
Yeah. But like I said, when you go for the throat and if you get them, and as strong as we are, son, if you can grab them by the throat, you got total control over them. You can swing them around like a rag doll. You just have to make sure you don't swing too hard so you don't snap their neck. That's the hard part. That is, I got to admit, the hard part, making sure you don't snap the neck. But when you're shaking them like a rag doll, the look of utter terror on their face is priceless. They're like, "Holy shit, how is this person that strong lifting? I'm a couple of feet off the ground right about now, and my feet are now touching the ceiling. They're slapping against that wall. Now they're slapping against that wall. Oh shit, he just threw me like I was nothing. Maybe I should not have tried beating this little guy up." Always go. Always. Make absolutely sure, though, you don't throw the first punch.
It feels good to hear stories where the person that started the fight loses it.
Yeah. But you have to make sure other people see you didn't throw the first punch. Because that's one of the reasons why so many victims of bullying who have fought back are the ones that got punished and treated like they're the ones that started the fight. And that's one of the reasons.
There's some behaviors that help prevent it as well. I mean, like even before we get to that stage, I mean, like bullying has to get pretty far before it gets to that stage. And I mean, while I think it should always be on the bullies, like in terms of like culpability, that should go on the people who are doing the bullying. But at the same time, there are patterns of human behavior that are predictable, especially in children. And, like the people who get bullied often have certain behavior traits that are maybe not so adaptive for them either. Like some things that get in the way of making friends, like that. You know, I mean, there's some things to be learned just within oneself that can prevent that situation from ever happening too.
Yep. Well, be good, Suzanne. I love you, and whenever you get a chance, you can show me how to turn you into a wrench.
Now, where do we think that this all shifted?
It had to have happened in the aughts. I do believe it had to happen in the aughts or the tens.
I was thinking there. You've got Columbine, and then a focus on bullying and anti-bullying stuff that happened right there. 1999 is also when the Phantom Menace came out, so it started to be more of a like people who were like about 20 years old, and like people who when were people who were like about 20 years old, something like that. What's that? But when was Return of the Jedi?
Jedi was mid 80s. Yeah, 85, maybe somewhere in there.
So you would have had people who were maybe in their teens, 20s that had seen the movies when they were kids, that were now going back and seeing Star Wars stuff anew, newly in the theater. So you've got them, you've got their kids too. So now you've got like two generations that are okay to have some stuff. Columbine happens that same year, so that's something where the anti-bullying comes in, and then the MCU starts in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think we see this anti-bullying push simultaneously with some things that kind of push the age range a little higher for some of these fandoms.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus the fact, I mean, if you'll look, the MCU made superhero movies mainstream.
Yeah.
Even though we had really good superhero movies with Superman when I was a kid, we had really good Batman in 1989. I mean, Michael Keaton, a lot of us were sitting there going, Michael Keaton is Batman? What the hell? And then he killed the role. He was that good in the role. And we had the X-Men movies that came out.
The Vulture?
Yes, he played the Vulture.
Also.
And but we also had the X-Men movies that came out in 2000.
I love those movies.
And these movies were popular, okay? But they weren't the phenomenon that they had that they would become before the woke took over. But we had, as time progressed, though, like I said, in the late aughts, early tens, we saw this transitioning of geeky stuff becoming popular.
Your age.
Look at Big Bang Theory. Is that the name of the sitcom that was really popular?
I think so.
That had Sheldon in it, and those guys that were all these highly intelligent, geeky guys that worked at a college.
Yeah, that's Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't know if you're talking about Big Bang Theory or Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
Because there's a prequel to it.
The Big Bang Theory, I had friends of mine that watched it religiously who weren't geeks, but ended up becoming aficionados of geek culture because of that show.
Yeah, I think it's just Big Bang Theory without the. It's like saying the Facebook, I think.
Yeah. Well, Big Bang Theory, I think, is part of what was a big part of it. And now that you're seeing shows like Stranger Things, where you're seeing these kids that were playing Dungeons and Dragons and things of this nature, they're just not covering a lot of the stuff that we went through back then. In these period shows, that I wish that they would have shown how different it was back then. So these the people today who think they're being bullied would see what real bullying looked like. And we built ourselves safe spaces so we could share what we loved with each other. And whenever somebody expressed interest in what we loved, we welcomed them in. We didn't care what color their skin was. what name they called God or if they believed in the God. We didn't care what they had between their legs, wished they had between their legs, or wanted the other person to have between their legs so they could get jiggy with them. We did none of that mattered. What mattered was the fact that they were expressing interest in what we enjoyed. So we welcomed them in openly. And in many cases, even though we knew it could happen, we would invite people into our spaces that would turn around and use it against us later because they were trying to make us look like fools. It's one of the reasons why I didn't go to prom, either junior prom or senior prom. I didn't go to any of the dances because I had seen other friends of mine that were in our little geek circle that would have some girl that would express interest in them and their geeky stuff, and then take them out on a date and then embarrass the living bejesus out of them. So I learned from their mistakes and didn't do that. Mm-hmm. It's also the fact that, going out, I didn't have money to go out. That was just me. I didn't have that kind of money because every time the way I made money back then was by babysitting the kids from the golf resort. When people would go to the golf resort, there was none of the girls around were allowed to babysit the kids and make money that way. But I would do it. And the money a couple $100 back in the 80s, that went a long way. If you were back then, you remember how much $80 went. Anywhere between $80 to $120 would go back in those days. Well, that's what I would get paid for babysitting children. But
there's not enough money in the world for me to babysit children. I hate being around children.
I've always been great with kids, but
even if I was offered to become a literal god, I still wouldn't do it.
But I would babysit these kids. The money, instead of coming to me, they would give the money to my parents. And then I would have to beg and plead to get a 35-cent comic book or a $3 action figure whenever we went to the store. And I had this talk with my mom before she died. And she's like, well, you were helping the family and that money went to the family. And I'm like, yes, but when my sister worked at a horse farm, she got to keep her paychecks, but I didn't, and that was just the way it was,
Yeah.
And I never, it hurt. It
no, really she was just teaching you about married life because that's what it's basically like.
Yes, very true. Very
you were the older one, and she just needed your income at that time.
Yeah, mom and dad at the time, dad was working 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. Mom was working a job as well. And the only difference was whenever I was living with my grandparents, and if I had a part-time job, I got to keep the money then. So, yeah, it was ridiculous. But, hey, the past is the past. Got it. It has helped shape me, though, to get really upset when I see hypocrisy and double standards and inequality. That's one of the reasons why I am the way I am, is I don't like seeing stuff like that. It frustrates me. It's one of the reasons. I think it's one of the reasons why whenever I would buy something for Zachary, I'd buy something for Jack, I'd buy something for Scarlett and George.
William.
Sorry, William.
That's all right.
But that's why I do that, is I remember what it was like growing up and being in a situation and just not be and just find it to remember the hurt that I experienced back then. And I don't want to wish it on anybody. It's one of the reasons why if someone tells me my pronouns are this. I do everything in my power to do it. But I let them know up front, I have a hard time with names. As you've seen with William, I keep calling him George or Archie, but I'm that way with Cashier. I can't pronounce his name right because when I try to say his name, it comes out chlamydia and it doesn't sound right. So I'm going to call him Cash. I have a hard time with names. It's not
That's
me
actually
being
a genius idea because you could just call any person that works at a cashier Cash because they're a cashier.
Well, I look at it this, I'm trying. I try,
and it works for women and men.
True, but like I said, it's just the way I am, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because I know how bad that can feel. But I'm also somebody that keeps making the statement of what I got as a child saying, sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt me. Real bullying that I went through. I mean, getting your ass kicked. That's real violence. Words as violence is one of those things that's always really got to me. And especially when these are the same people who like calling me a istophobe idiot all the time. And back when I was a kid, being called a racist and all this other stuff, that truly was fighting words.
Probably just the worst thing you could be.
Yes. Because to be called a Nazi back in those days, we had just fought a war against Nazis and fascists, and we were in a Cold War with communists, which were just a different flavor of fascism and authoritarianism. They were villains. They were evil. They deserved to be beat down for being vile human beings. And so we would get upset by being called these things. But as time has progressed, we have been called it so much, the words no longer have any kind of real meaning anymore. And there's this guy that I follow his artwork because I really like how he draws battle mechs. And he's part of the Battletech, not just the fandom. He actually does contract work for Catalyst Games Labs on redesigning the battle mechs for the Battletech franchise.
Take the castle with you at least.
And this dude uses the term fascist for anybody he disagrees with. He was part of the canceling of Blaine Pardoe. From one of the guys who has been writing the lore fiction for Battletech since it was the Battle. The guy is the one that came up with a lot of the lore behind the original battle mechs that the game had from the very start. He was also one of the people who was responsible for laying out the future of the Battletech universe. And they ran him off because he was a conservative who had a lunatic activist, left-wing activist, who was lying, saying that he was a lesbian nurse with adopted kids. But this person was making death threats that was so actionable that there was not just restraining orders against him, but the dude went to court and got convicted on the shit. And Catalyst Game Labs fired Pardoe and boxed up and shelved all the future stuff that he had written for them. Right now, he's having to sue them to get his royalties for all the books that he had already written that they're still selling to this day. That they've broken contract with him, and he's having to sue to get his royalties. And it's not the first time he's had to do that when it comes to the Battletech novels. A lot of the Battletech authors who helped cancel him benefit from the fact that he has had to sue to get their royalties in the past. But like I said, these people throw these words and names around so callously and so casually, it's demeaned what it means. And we've seen this in politics where one side has been dehumanized to the point to where a guy can get his brains blown out by somebody because he's wearing a red baseball cap, and an Antifa protest group will hear, oh, somebody just shot a MAGA supporter. Looks like somebody took the trash out and everybody's cheering it. That's why I'm setting up this channel, is to talk about the things that I love, that we love. I'm wanting to invite people on, like you are, Cash, like Zachary is, so we can talk about the stuff we love. And my first post here is talking about the bullying that was experienced back in the 70s and 80s, the great satanic panic that we had to put up with when we were actually being oppressed and treated like shit. And how we had to come together and create safe spaces that we are today being kicked out of because we're complaining about the lack of quality in our entertainment industry and our escapism. That's what this stuff is meant for. It is meant to escape the day-to-day stresses. It's to escape from having to hear about politicians doing stupid shit, wanting to tax us on stuff that we have already been taxed on.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to send Zachary a model.
Value for life.
And they're going to put, I'm going to have to pay another set of taxes on this model if I send it from the United States to him. You know, value added tax or whatever the heck it is that they call it over there. And I tried purchasing the model using the Amazon UK to send it to him, and had all kinds of issues with trying to get it sent to him. Just like I'm having issues trying to send him the money so he can go get his passport. But hopefully by this weekend, we'll have that all settled and fixed, and he can be able to go get his passport.
Hopefully.
So, can we hear you?
Yeah. I was just reading what our Mad wrote, and he's right.
Gotcha.
But like I said, that's why I'm wanting to set this up. I want to be able, Zach and I are going to build models together, and I'm going to be telling him about all kinds of stuff on here. I want to be able to have other people come on and talk about the toys that we played with when we were kids. If we're collecting toys or we're collecting other type of collectibles, to come in and talk about that. I want to be able to have an open dialogue with people about the stuff that we love. We can disagree on politics, no problem. But when we're talking about the stuff we love, we come together and we share that love.
We'll say a couple things. You know, I mean, like, I know that growing up for myself, I know, like, you know, and around high school was probably the time, so like early aughts when anime really kicked off in the popular consciousness, like where you'd get like friend groups. Like, you know, not everybody was into anime, but there were like groups of like the goth kids and things like that would be really into the anime stuff, where like there'd be a lot of intersection in those groups, I know. And and it wasn't like there was nobody that really had any kind of negative feeling if people were into different stuff like that. You know, I mean, everybody had their thing. You know, everybody played with Pokemon cards when they were in elementary school. And so, like, everybody was a nerd.
I have a Pokemon card in my wallet.
There you go. Right. I mean, so there's that. I mean, and I think also, you know, what you're doing, it's, shoot, I've forgotten. It'll come back to me in a second.
But like I said, you know, we anime, when I was young, was still very new in the United States. It was the first anime my family watched was Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind.
Oh, that's a good.
That was
a lot of Hayao Miyazaki stuff is really good.
But that was the first anime we ever saw in my family.
Oh, and I remembered the thing. It's, I mean, I think that a lot of these companies don't notice that the people who are the original core fandom for most of these properties were people who were ridiculed for it, people who maybe didn't fit in other places, and people who didn't have some other method. I mean, like a girl who doesn't fit in can still kind of find a place in some ways. I mean, or the challenge is somewhat different from in that era being a guy that didn't fit in, and so these modern days, they're looking at largely white males and seeing the enemy, they're seeing the oppressor. It's almost inconceivable to them, I think, the actual truth of the matter of the core fandom being people who are people who got tired of being bullied and are willing to stand up for what they believe in.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. That's where so many of us have gotten to. Especially as I think we're called grown-nards because we're old school. We're the old guard. We're the ones that blaze these trails. We built these places. We've dealt with it. The classical grown-nard look is white dude, overweight, wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And just because I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and I'm a little overweight doesn't change the fact I'm still a human being. I still have feelings. I have loved these properties for over 50 years. And by dehumanizing me and dismissing what I'm saying when it's been my money, my time, my energy, my love towards these fandoms that's being dismissed and looked down upon, who's the bad guy? Who's the bully in this? It's the people that are trying to force us out of what we love. Now, I'm not trying to force anybody out of the fandom. I don't have a problem with the tourist fans who just showed up but I do have a problem whenever they're trying to kick me out of my fandom.
So here's the $1 billion question then. How do they make the fandom appealing and potentially inclusive of people of every stripe? All the various kinds of people that are out there. So there's something for them to potentially enjoy and something. How do you do that correctly? Because we've got characters like Ripley from Alien that was a universally loved character. We got Cara Dune, universally loved character. How do we actually successfully represent?
That's easy. Look at how the fandom is reacting to these characters. Don't try to force a character down someone's throat. Okay, I'm going to use Marvel Comics. All right, especially with how they have been turning a lot of characters straight in comics. They've been turning a lot of straight characters gay just to turn them gay to tell these stories. While we've had gay characters in the comics for a long time.
But whatever happened to creating new characters?
Yes, that's another problem, that they'll create some really wild characters and then they'll disappear within a very short period of time. They're not willing to take the time to build up a new character. Now, I'm using Marvel Comics. One of the first openly gay characters in Marvel Comics was North Star. One of the first openly gay characters in DC Comics was Obsidian. Okay. Now, going back to Marvel Comics and North Star, there was a really good run by his last name is David, I think, who writes for he writes for comic books. He writes novels. He also has written some really good movies. He wrote Rock in a Hard Place, and he wrote a series, the Excalibur series, the USS Excalibur series with Mackenzie Calhoun in the Star Trek novels universe. David, hold on.
That's getting weird. I don't like that. I've never seen something like that.
Let's see. Place Star Trek. Peter David. Yes, that was his name, Peter David. He wrote a really good run of Incredible Hulk. It's where we got the best version of Professor Hulk. And there was a group of superpowered people that operated out of a mountain. They were all named after characters from the Trojan War, like Paris, Achilles, Agamemnon, Andromeda, and so on. Hector, the character of Hector, was an openly gay man. And this was back in the 90s when these storylines was out there. You still had the Comics Code Authority. And back then, the Marvel Comics put out the swimsuit issues of magazines.
What?
Yes, they actually had swimsuit issues.
Why?
I mean, why do you think?
Yeah.
Why do that? We don't need that.
We don't need
they
that.
We
do not need this.
It's not about need. It's about want.
Yes. The post.
I do not want this.
They were poster magazines, is basically what they were, and each.
I want to see people kicking ass, not showing ass.
Then you wouldn't buy that one, but a bunch of other people would.
Yeah, yeah, the male gaze wants, but they also had stuff in there for the female gaze and for the gay gaze as well.
Oh yeah, their bodysuits are basically painted on, and they're all freaking stacked and ripped.
Yeah, women are sitting there going, "Oh, unrealistic body standards, unrealistic body standards," but the guys are like pointing at He-Man and all these guys that are like super buff. But you're not complaining about the dudes being super buff. What the hell? That's a double standard. Kiss my butt.
Yeah.
Kiss my tank. Kiss my tank. You know, you want something to aspire to. That's the whole point about having those types of heroes to look up to. You're aspiring to be greater.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really frustrating that they have that big blatant double standard that they just go with, and you're supposed to act like it's not real. And I'm sorry, I can't do that. That's my autistic issue, is I can see the double standard and I'm going to point it out, because I can't stand those type of double standards. It's why I get aggravated with the way the mainstream media reports on politics stuff nowadays, because it's blatantly out there. And but like I said, they had these really good gay characters already existing in comic books that they could be using to tell really good LGBT, MNOP plus storylines. Okay. But they're not using them. Instead, they're looking at, oh, we have to have these prominent characters now become gay, so we can use that platform to get what we want, to tell the stories we want. They don't want to build up either an established character or build up a character to try to make them that way. They're lazy. It's why I keep saying it's not the writers, it's not the artist, it's not the character, it's not the artist, it's the writers. If you hire bad writers, no matter how good of a character you've got, it's going to turn to crap. I mean, Miss Marvel in the comics, Carol Danvers, was an extremely beloved character who was flawed, just like Iron Man was a flawed character. Both of them suffered from alcoholism. Okay.
Oh, wrong button.
They both suffered from alcoholism. Both Carol Danvers and Tony Stark were alcoholics in the comic books. But if you'll notice, in the MCU, Carol Danvers has no weaknesses except for the fact her personality is flatter than her ass. And that was both a joke as well as being serious, but I digress. Her acting was super flat. she just, and the messed up thing is, I've seen Brie Larson in other things to where she actually is able to act. And it makes me wonder, is it the fact that she just was given shitty scripts or what? It's like the main character from Star Trek Discovery, Michael Barman, whatever the heck her name is, Mikey Spock. I've seen her in other things. I loved her in The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
And several other projects that she has been in. She was a great actor in that. But when she was doing Star Trek Discovery, she came across so flat. It was like watching a block of wood.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. That's why I keep saying it's the writer's problem. It's a writing problem. Just like with what happened with Ahsoka, the TV show, what happened with the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show, what happened on the 3rd season of The Mandalorian. It was writing. That was the problems. And don't get me started about Book of Boba Fett. Damn, oh shit. I still have post-traumatic stress disorder flashbacks from that. But I mean, color-coded scooters, come on. Oh boy. But nah, we got bullied as kids for liking this stuff. And so we created a place to where you could share it and not fear getting bullied. We accepted anybody if they enjoyed what we enjoyed. I mean, we welcomed with open arms everyone. We didn't care any of the little identity politics stuff. It's just the fact that you said, hey, this looks cool. Can you tell me about it? And we were like, oh, heck yeah, I want to share this with you. And we shared it and we shared it. We didn't gatekeep. We let anybody come in that wanted to come in, and we just wanted them to love something as much as we did. And right now we're getting hit with, we're haters and called names other than child of God, and made to feel like we are the most worthless thing to walk the earth, when all we want is the same amount of respect we gave you when you came into our spaces. We've made this joke, okay? There's a meme out there where it showed these guys hanging out, talking about the stuff they enjoyed, and girls come up and go, hey, why can't we be part of your club? Because the club sign said no girls. Okay. They take the sign and throw it away. Come on in. You can come in. And then they start complaining about the fact, well, why do you sit there drinking beer, smoking cigars, sticking your hand down the front of your pants while you're sitting there watching TV? Why don't you do this, and this? Let's change this. Let's change that. And the guys are like, okay. And then it gets changed to a point to where it's nothing like what the guys were doing in the first place. So and then they get told by the women, well, if you don't like it here, go make your own place somewhere else. And the guys are like, okay. And then they go and they reset up somewhere else. And then the next thing you know, there's that knock at the door. Why can't we come in? You got to let us in. You're bigots. You're sexist. You're all this other stuff. You just kicked us out of our spaces that we had built earlier, and we're getting it again. And it frustrates me that you can have spaces for these minority groups to have their safe space, and we have to leave their safe space, but we're not being allowed to have our own safe space. It's a double standard that we've got to hold up the mirror to it and say, double standard here. We allowed you to come into our safe spaces, and then you want to change everything and force us out. No, it's just like the people that move to a country. if you're an immigrant to a country, you have to assimilate and become part of that culture. It's like all the people that it's like what's going on in Germany right now, what's going on in the UK right now, what's going on here in the United States right now. You've got people who come into this country and refuse to learn the language. They create their own little community inside your country that ends up becoming places to where people who are native here, who were born here, their families go back centuries, are looking at areas of their hometowns where they can't go into because they're scared of somebody hurting them. It's like in the UK, you've got these areas that the Muslims have taken over, and you've got these Muslim Sharia law patrols, where if you're walking through this area and you've got a beard, they'll attack you for it. Or if you're a woman wearing a skirt that they find too short, or you're not wearing a hijab, they will attack you for it. If you're walking a dog, they'll attack you for it. You've got places here in the United States that are doing the same thing. I mean, I don't like the pride flags in schools. I really don't. I think that's wrong. The only flags that should be in schools is the country of that school is set in. Any other flag, especially anything that's political, needs to stay out. You have your state flag and your country's flag, and that should be it.
Well, I think the intention of the original rainbow flag being like, for like lesbian, gay, bisexual people, like primarily that's what it was kind of like people thinking about. I think that's all fine. But, it's once you start once it becomes, essentially what's on it now. It's all people of color, which is just a phrase we have for anybody that's not white.
Which excludes white people.
All the people who aren't cis and all the people who aren't straight. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's just like now, but who's left out of that flag is still like 65% of the population, like, it's something like that. So it's while
it's gone from being an inclusionary thing to being an exclusionary thing.
Yeah, it seems that it's gotten that way. And like as an inclusionary thing, like I've got no beef with people having their symbol and even flying at places, as long as we're not saying that as long as we don't take out the US flag, I think that, I don't mind there being some other flags, but they've got to be okay with the straight flag being up and
but they don't.
Kind of a hate symbol, like if you're gonna have like a gay flag up, you should be able to, if students want to, and some students probably will want to, put up and be like, well, if you're gonna put up that one, then I think we should put up this one as well. And I think that as long as that's how it's conducted, I don't have a problem with it.
But that's the problem. It's
not being conducted in that fashion that it becomes a problem. Yeah,
exactly. And I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to teach history. I wanted to teach civics. I wanted to teach the next generation the lessons I learned the hard way so they wouldn't have to go through that. History isn't supposed to make you feel good. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to inspire you. It's supposed to make you think. You're supposed to look at all of the bad stuff that happened in the past and think, I have to make sure this doesn't happen again. How can I go about doing that? Oh, if I can see the signs that led up to this, I can say something about it. But of course, that ended up getting a lot of us called conspiracy theorists when we kept calling stuff out. And considering the fact that so many people who lived through the rise of Hitler and throughout Hitler's reign, we've lost so many of those people. They've passed away because they've aged out of life. We had people that went through that came to the United States to speak out against the way the cult of personality around President Obama was forming. It scared them because they remembered what it was like when Hitler came to power, because they were witnessing a cult of personality where you had celebrities and actors and politicians having commercials aired on TV where they were swearing their personal loyalty, absolutely loyalty to a man. You had schools, elementary schools, that had children singing hymnal praises to Obama. You had young boys wearing paramilitary clothes, stomping around and slapping themselves on the chest, swearing their loyalty to Obama. That stuff scared the bejesus out of me, and it still does. I have yet to see something like that with Trump. I have yet to see where you've got school children, little school children, singing praises to Trump. I have yet to see celebrities taking out these big, huge ads and billboards of my loyalty is to Trump and nothing but Trump. You know, I don't see that. And it frustrates me. I look at that, my autism kicks in and says, hey, something doesn't match here. You remember from Sesame Street, one of these things doesn't belong.
One of these things is not like the other. Yeah.
Yes. And that song goes on in my head when I see this stuff, when people are sitting there saying Trump's the next Hitler. And I'm like going, wait a minute. Trump's wanting to make sure people have the right to say what they want to say. He's not persecuting journalists. He's not calling for violence. He's got people trying to shoot him. Can I keep going on things with how this stuff doesn't add up? If he was going to do this stuff, he would have done it his first term. If Harris was going to fix this stuff that we have with everything being so expensive, don't you think she would have already done it since she's already in office right now?
I'm not sure that's their intention.
She's been running around saying Bidenomics works. Things aren't expensive. You just think it is. It's not the fact that gas is up to $5 a gallon in many places. Of course, if the gas price goes up that much, the price of everything else is going to go up. That's that whole logistical chain. You've got to drive stuff in a truck to get it to where you're going to sell it. And if the gas costs that much to take something somewhere, of course the price of it's going to go up. That's basic economics. And they're not teaching that to kids anymore. And it frustrates me. It's like the people that were sitting there going, closing the Keystone Pipeline didn't do anything. And I'm like, you do realize having more oil on the open market brings the price of oil down, right? That means gas prices does what? It goes down. Every time we would have something go wrong during the Bush years, when the hurricane came through, it shut down oil pipelines because of damage. Thus, when that happened, what happened to the gas prices? It went up until those oil pipelines reopened and the oil started flowing again, and the gas prices did what? They went down. Okay. And when the gas prices went down, how much stuff cost went down with it. Basic economics, basic linguistics. Amateurs talk tactics. Professionals talk linguistics. That's the most basic of ways of looking at it. And that's where we're at right now when it comes to politics. You've got a political party out there that has dehumanized the others for over 50 years. Every time you turned around, Bush is Hitler. Mitt Romney is Hitler. John McCain is Hitler. Ronald Reagan is Hitler. They just keep throwing it at you over and over and over again. And I've been watching so many walk away videos of people who had been lifelong Democrats who said that they woke up one day going, wait a minute, I keep getting told that this person's the next Hitler, but they're not. I keep getting told this person is a racist. And with Trump, it's been so blatant, it's woken a lot of people up, especially a lot of black people. The whole thing with what happened in Charlottesville, where they were sitting there saying that, he was praising the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists, when he actually said, before the whole quote, there's good people on both sides, he says, I am condemning the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people that there are good people on both sides of the issue of taking down these statues. Again, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis nor the white supremacists. Fuck those guys. They're vile and they need to just go away.
That's roughly, I mean, like those weren't his exact words, but that was kind of the flow of it.
Yes. And I was watching the video. In fact, this morning I was watching this video that this black guy had done talking about this on Twitter X. And he was just, in fact, I reposted it because I was like, this is really good. Because he's talking about what woke him up. And then we're watching this lawfare thing that's been going on with Trump, where they've changed laws so they can go after him. If they can do that with him, guess what, boys and girls? They can do that with you. Oh my God, I just realized something. They've been doing it to us. This is just bringing it to our attention on a wider scale. Because we have seen where corrupt district attorneys and corrupt attorney generals have done this. In fact, one is sitting in a very important position right now in the federal government who kept black men in prison after their terms when they were supposed to go to jail and get out had long went past. And she was just keeping them in there so they could get that free slave labor of criminals being forced to do work for $1 a day. And her name, well, she's running for a very important job right about now. If you guys know who I'm hinting at, go look it up before it gets removed. Yeah, about the stuff that woman did.
I mean, they'd have to take something out of the presidential debates, like the nominee debates in 2019, I think it was, with Gabbard.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard brought that stuff out. And of course, you've got people that are saying that Tulsi Gabbard's no patriot. Hell, they're saying I'm not a patriot because I don't vote blue. Yeah. I served my country. I've left blood and guts on other parts of this of the world.
How about that
service?
Though, Tulsi Gabbard's definitely the Wonder Woman.
Yes, she's.
I'm not sure who the other ones would be exactly.
Well, I look at Tulsi Gabbard, and I might not agree with a lot of her politics, but I have a great deal of respect for her.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. We've got to a point to where her party has dehumanized us so badly, it's not even funny. And now they're going after her to dehumanize her. They're going after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They're going after Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate. I can't remember how you say her name, but I mean, she ran a really cool commercial on YouTube about Trump derangement syndrome that was amazing and funny as all get out.
I haven't seen his former running mate.
Robert. Let me see if I can pull it up. RFK Jr.'s running mate's name. Let's see. But they're going after him for stuff that happened in the past. Nicole Shanahan. 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 Okay. See,
I'm getting a bit tired now. I'm a go.
All right, son. I love you and
love you too, Dad. Bye.
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 But yes, Art Madman, you're right. People are allowing themselves to be blinded by hate. Their hatred of one man is outweighing their love of everything else. It's why I'm setting up this channel and hoping to do it the way I'm going to be doing it, talking about the stuff that I love. I want, like I said, I want people to come on and we can talk about the toys we played with, the TV shows we watched, the movies we've watched, the books we've read, the games we've played, both in video and tabletop and board games. I want us to share what we love, and it love is just it's too important, because if we don't focus on love, we're going to focus on hate, and the hate blinds us, and it'll turn things bad. I've seen this in my own life, because I've watched as Nadine has changed so bloody much and allowed her irrational hatred of Trump to blind her to everything else. And when somebody tried to kill him and told her about it, and she just rolled her eyes as if it wasn't true, it got to me. When my baby sister's best friend came in right after the first assassination attempt to her house, to Becca's house, and was celebrating the fact somebody tried to kill him, but was upset that they missed. That really hurt my baby sister really bad, because she never expected this person to be that type of a person. And it's that type of thing that scares me, because that's the type of stuff that allowed the Nazis to round up Jews all throughout Europe, because they had dehumanized Jews so much in Germany that people who had known them their entire lives, and in many cases loved them, turned them in. And not even to use the Nazis as an example, let's use the German Democratic Republic and the informers that the Stasi had. Okay, you couldn't trust anybody, because the dehumanization was so intense.
Yeah, and I mean, they've gone a remarkable way doing that against against MAGA specifically, which I think they fundamentally misunderstand. I mean, they've been told all kinds of crazy things about what makes MAGA MAGA, but I mean, really, what it is populism. It's a populist sentiment, like it's pure centrist populist is really what it is.
And that's the reason why you see it reaching across the aisles to people who still to this day consider themselves liberal. You know, I don't use the term progressive for them, because progressivism was an ideology from the turn of from the 19th to the 20th centuries that became very authoritarian and centralized government. It's what inspired Mussolini to create the fascist party in Italy. That's not me saying that. That was Mussolini saying it. It was to be a alternative to socialism, which was and communism, which at that time focused on internationalism, which it still does to this day. And which internationalism scares the heck out of me. Globalism scares the heck out of me, because that means somebody on the other side of the planet has the right to tell you how you can live your life when they've never been here, they don't know the conditions here, etc., and so on. No, there is no such thing as one size fits all. There is no single answer to every question. Each question has its nuances. It's like I've said about diamonds. Everything has a nuance. Yes, there is black and white. There is good and evil. Slavery is evil. That's pure and simple, because you're forcing somebody to become an object. That's pure, unadulterated evil. Dehumanizing somebody is evil, because you're denying their humanity, just like slavery is, because that's what slavery does. You deny them their humanity. You've turned them into an object. And nobody wants that. Or no sane person wants it, I should say. And I just don't understand how we've gotten to this point to where we've allowed those that are dehumanizing and calling for violence to be able to act like they are the victims. And, oh, I'm being victimized, so I have the right to kill you because you used the wrong pronouns. Wait, what?
We're not quite there yet, but I could see it. It's heading in a concerning direction for sure, and it is heading in a direction that is quite similar to the aspects of those movements that you describe.
Yeah, and our
But
madman.
I am seeing fatigue. I think that we might see. I think we might be starting to see the pendulum swing back the other way a bit.
I'm hoping so. Have you read the book, The Fourth Turning?
No, I'm familiar with the adage though of the, like, you know, the which is the first line. I mean, I know how the cycle goes, but it's, you know, like good men, like strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men, and it's this cycle. And generally speaking, in the final stage, war occurs, revolution, some kind of big upheaval, and then we're kind of in a liminal period.
Well, there's a
right?
book. Let me see if I can remember the name. I think it's called The Fourth Turning, that talks about the cycles when it comes to history. Let me see. Yeah, it's called The Fourth Turning by William Strauss. I've read this book twice. It's really good. I would post a link to it on here, but I don't want to get in trouble for trying to advertise for somebody, because I've heard that can get me kicked off of YouTube faster than saying bad words. But there is a cycle to it. It's the pendulum that swings back and forth. And if you try to stop making its return swing, the more you hold it back, the harder that swing's going to be. And it can get really, really nasty and dirty and ugly fast. That's how come we end up getting wars. Big wars will come about. And we're long past due for a big global type war, because the pendulum has been held back. Now, one of the things, it being part of nature, because if you'll look back through history, we had world wars before World War I, before the Great War. I mean, the French Indian War was a world war. The Napoleon, they were fighting Napoleon all across the flipping planet. It all depended on where your people were at on the planet. If you were fighting a war there, if you had a big overexpanded assets across the globe, wherever your assets were when you went to war with somebody, that war got spread out over there too, especially when you started having a lot of allies. Because, hey, war makes money. It's a profit type deal. Oh, I can make money selling bullets to both sides. Why not? And which really is frustrating, but you can see how that comes about. It doesn't make it makes sense, but at the same time, it makes me feel queasy in the stomach, because you're allowing yourself to profit off of other people's pain and suffering. And to me, that's just what's the word I'm looking for? It just really is bad to me. It leaves a really bad taste in my mouth whenever I see stuff like that, you know?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, somebody, I mean, you know, if somebody's got to make the bullets for the good people, you know, somebody's got to bullets for the people who just have something ready to defend themselves. You know, it's So I mean, there's only so much control you're going to have. Now, I mean, I get that you'll have big contracts with like some foreign country and things like that, or some terrorist group or what have you. And I mean, then sure, you're into morally, well, not even morally gray, but morally black territory, let's say. But the rest of the time, you can't necessarily control who's going to be the end purchaser of something if you're just like a regular old manufacturer.
Yeah, Hezbollah has learned that lesson the hard way.
Well, yeah, that was a very, very, very clever operation.
Yes, how many of them are not going to not be able to enjoy their 72 virgins?
Well, they're probably not going to. I mean, they're probably going to end up not being able to communicate because they got them with the pagers and with the walkie-talkies. So I mean, I've got to imagine that their entire system of communication must be absolute chaos right now.
Yep. And I'm just looking at this going, damn. What got me was the fact that a high-ranking Iranian official got caught up in that. I'm like, instead of y'all saying, why did they attack the Iranian official? You should be asking yourself, if these are the pagers that went to a terrorist group, why did the Iranian official have one?
Yeah,
that's the real question. But nope. We've got people marching in the streets screaming, "Death to Israel!" And I'm like, oh God, how can it just, the anti-Semitism of it really freaks me out and makes me sit there and go, let me get this straight. How many Jews live in Gaza? None. West Bank? None. How many Muslim Arabs live in Israel? Over 2 million. And they're full citizens with voting rights and even serve in the IDF. Let me see. Do gay people get tossed off the top of buildings in Israel? No. Are there honor killings being allowed in Israel? No. Okie dokie. That tells me all I need to know.
Yeah, and definitely a very way of life.
And when I was in the Middle East, that was the type of shit I saw. I got to see what an honor killing was when I was a kid. I got to see gay people being killed for being gay. And I'm like, come on, guys. How can you tell me I did not experience something I've experienced and witnessed with my own two eyes? I mean, you keep talking about your life experiences and your truths, but whenever I'm telling you something I saw with my own eyes, something I experienced with my own life, you're attacking me for it and calling me names. But yet I'm supposed to accept the fact that you want to be seen as something you weren't born as. There's a big difference there, and I look at it that way because that's the only way I can look at it. And it's frustrating to me. If you're going to live by these rules, live by the rules that you're setting out.
Be consistent.
Yes, that consistency is a very important part of life. It's proof of your humanity. Tolerance is a two-way street, people. If you want me to tolerate you, you have to tolerate me. If you're calling me all these horrible names, it's like with the bullies. When they started beating at me, I took it for the longest time until I couldn't take it no more. And if you're going to keep doing stuff like that, when the person you've been attacking finally has had enough and punches you back, you can't then cry as the victim, which I have been watching them do so bloody much. It's ridiculous. We're human beings. Treat each other as human beings. Stop dehumanizing us. We are not dehumanizing you. Just because we're looking at a guy that has grown out his hair, but that's it. He's not changing his voice. his pitch of his voice, not even shaving to look feminine. Now, if somebody actually looks like the gender they're identifying as, I'm okay with that, because that is a very important part about being the gender. You're saying that you have gender dysmorphia, that you feel like you're trapped in the wrong body and you're trying to transform that body to look more like the gender you want to be seen as. If you're not taking any steps in that, how can I take you seriously? It's like the guy that's 6'5" with a full bushy beard that's riding around on a motorcycle wearing big, heavy duty combat biker boots with a bright pink princess dress with a veil on, with a bushy beard that's bigger than Beard of Liberties that goes past his belt buckle, riding around saying he's 5 years old. How am I supposed to take that seriously? And
well, I mean, it's probably, I mean, for somebody experiencing those feelings, it's probably healthier to, you know, resolve the feelings that you're having through something other than surgery. So I mean, like honestly, that seems like the better. Now, I mean, if that might include dressing certain ways and, you know, talking, you know, like all those kinds of things, using certain names, pronouns, all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, you know, it doesn't strike me as less like, you know, less of a thing to take somebody seriously by virtue of not having certain surgeries. Now, I can understand the thought of like, well, I'm not sure, you know, if you're being genuine about this, but I mean, for those that are, and there are people who exist that are, I think that you know,
yeah,
who exist who have those pervasive notions and feelings, you know, in that direction, and for those people, I mean, I've got, you know, there's that must be really rough, you know.
yeah,
It must be
I've
like,
known many
quite
real transgender people. I've
yeah.
loved them. But I've
I
also
mean,
known people.
it's probably better for them though if they can find a way to get peace, internal peace, without needing surgeries. That's probably for the betterment of their health.
Yes, it is. But I've also known people who were misdiagnosed as trans, and it ended up with them ending their lives.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm coming at from this, is I'm worried about the people who are either misdiagnosed or are being self-diagnosing using pop psychology instead of real psychology. That worries me, and I am concerned about it, and that's what I'm focused the most on, because there's safety nets to catch the people who have actual gender dysmorphia, but the people who are being convinced they have it have no safety nets anymore. And that frustrates me and it scares me. At one time, you had this little thing called lobotomies that were being handed out. Oh, this will cure this problem. Let's just give them a lobotomy. Okay, that was a big issue. I mean, it was thrown around so much. It's one of the reasons why. It's one of the reasons why Teddy Kennedy is the reason why so many the mental health issues in the United States is so bad, because he pushed through closing all of the asylums and sanatoriums down because of what happened to his sister.
Yeah.
And
now they were poorly run, but I think we could probably do a much better job these days.
Yes. But instead of fixing and reforming it, they just got rid of them all. And now you've got people who are on the streets who really need help, but they're not getting any help. And they're self-medicating. They're using drugs. They're doing violent stuff. I mean, there's videos out there coming out of California of people standing around on the streets doing nothing. There was this one dude that literally was standing there while pooping and eating the poop that was coming out of his butt as it was coming out of his butt.
Ugh.
And nobody was trying to help this person. And there's so many of these people that if they got the help that they desperately needed, it wouldn't be so bad. There are veterans that are living on the street because they've not been able to fit back into civilian life because of the stuff that they saw while they were in the military, things that they've dealt with in the military, the PTSD. There was a movie called Deer Hunter that was about a bunch of Vietnam vets who, when they came home, they were treated so bad by the civilians. They moved out into the middle of the national forest and set up a community out there to live. And there's a lot of people who think that was just fiction, but it's not. It wasn't. There were lots of groups of guys that did that because they couldn't fit back into society. And we've got that today, that there are veterans living on the streets because either they're not being allowed to fit back into society, or they're so hurt that they need help getting back into society. But there's also a bunch of them whose wives basically took off with their kids, divorced them, and took everything they had. And now they have no money, that are living on the streets. But it's not just vets like that, though, that I've learned. There are a lot of men who the divorce laws that are so one-sided have left them in that situation. And it's terrifying that their pain, their suffering, has no meaning to the majority of the people. They just get told, oh, suck it up, buttercup, and keep on going. How are they supposed to get back up on their feet when they can't get a job because they don't have a home?
Yeah, and you get stuck in this like vicious cycle of poverty.
Yes. And I'm sorry, I've always felt that whoever the cheater is in the relationship should be the one that gets the least amount of money whenever they split assets. And they shouldn't be the one that gets the kids. I don't care. If you're the cheater, you don't get the kids because you're proving yourself to be an immoral person that's not going to set a good example for the children of the next generation.
I mean, I think that when you look at the actual cases, I think that you'd find it probably isn't quite so simple as that rule alone. But I get where you're coming from with it. Yeah, and I think that like a factor like that should be taken into consideration. But I mean, that's a whole.
I've seen where guys who
I'm gonna have to get headed out of here pretty short. Okay.
Well, I've seen where guys have found themselves in these types of situations who didn't do anything wrong, and instead of them having the law protect them, since they are the victim, instead be the very thing that victimizes them even further. And it hurts me, it frustrates me, and it's so hypocritical that it just rubs me wrong. And I've talked to guys that are in that situation that never recovered from it, and actually the only reason why they're still alive is the fact that they haven't had the temerity to just get a gun and end it. They're trying to kill themselves through alcohol or drugs or other means. And having a talk with guys,
trying to, like, most of the time people aren't really trying to kill themselves. They're trying to stop suffering. Now, I mean, some people put those two things together, but for the most part, it's just escape.
Yeah, and it hurts so much. I mean, with me, I didn't kill myself because I couldn't do that to my kids. I just couldn't. And because they would literally know the reason why I did it.
Well, I guess it's just me here.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
Duck of death. Duck of death got me. But no, I mean, I guess we can shut things down now. But like I said, there's so much stuff that's messed up today that we've ignored our humanity, even in this. What we're just discussing about the way divorce laws are doing. We're ignoring the humanity of the men that find themselves in this situation.
I just think that belongs in its own conversation. I mean, that's probably like, that's a topic unto itself.
But it's like I said, it still falls under people ignoring our humanity, and we need to talk about it. We need to do something about it, and I'm hoping this channel will allow that we can actually have people come together and talk about it, and like we have today. I mean, a lot of the bullying I went through as a kid, what the bullying my baby sister went through, I don't want anyone else to go through that. But I do want the people today who think that they're being oppressed. I wish that they would be able to look through our eyes who's actually gone through true oppression and true bullying, true violence, and realize that while their lives seem hard right now, it's not as bad as they think it is. And that by dehumanizing the people who's already gone through this and came through on the other side and is actually here offering compassion and love and help. I mean, we welcome them into our spaces to enjoy something we love. And now they're trying to push us out of those spaces. I just want us to be able to share what we love again and get past the hate, because that's what divides us. The dehumanization and the othering is nothing but hate, and hate destroys the hater, not the hated. And that's what scares me, is they're destroying themselves, and I don't want that. I want them to be the best human being they can be. Notice I didn't say best man, woman, or they, them that they can be. I said the best human they can be, because that's what matters in the end, is our humanity.
Well,
God, that's why God made us, man.
I agree with all that, but like I said, I've got to be headed out now, unfortunately.
All right, Cash. It was great getting to talk to you. I love you, brother. And anytime you want to be on here, you're more than welcome. Just like our Madman and anyone else who wants to be on here, you're more than welcome. My door is always open. And
the topics you're going into each time,
yeah, sometimes the topics will just be a little bit of everything, because love is an eternal thing, and our humanity is built upon love, and we've got to get back to that. We've got to get to a point to where everybody knows who they are and will love each other and be part of the greater whole. Because if we don't, we're not going to get that far. We're going to fall short of where we should be.
Richard,
I
gotta go.
Yep. All right, love you, brother. You have a blessed day.
You as well. Bye.
But like I said, now that it's just me and the people in the chat, thank you guys for showing up for my first official show, talking about what it was like growing up back in the day, the type of bullying that we ended up going through back then, and what it took to build the spaces that we're being pushed out of today. And I don't want us to ever have to go through that. As you guys can see, I've put my Discord for this channel up. Well, finally figured out how to make that work. And oh, cool. All right, man, that's awesome. But share the Discord. Anybody who wants to come on and talk with me, help me by being my co-host, so we can have a discussion that's open and honest and frank and loving. You're more than welcome. Put it in the comments below, or contact me on the Discord. Everyone's welcome. Even people who hate me, I will let you come on here and call me names, as long as you're doing it with respect and tolerance. I want us to have an open discussion, because I'm a human being and so are you. We're both worth something greater than the whole. And to act like I'm a monster when I'm not, that is destroying you. I don't think of you as a monster. I think of you as a human being and a person that deserves respect. I just ask for the same thing in return. And you're more than welcome to come on here and talk with me. And I just want everyone to remember my basic fact of life. Love never dies. It can only grow. Each generation, it doubles, because it takes two people to make a life. And when that love from them come together, that's doubling the love and makes a new person. And every human life is worth something. Every human life has meaning. Every human life has potential to be something amazing, just as much as it has the potential to be something horrible. But we have to focus on that a new life has that potential. And we need to focus on that. We need to nurture it and make it better. And by dehumanizing other people, all that will do is destroy you, not what you hate. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. If I knew how to do it, I'd have a song outro. My favorite song when it's time to leave has always been Goodbye, Sweetheart. The Good Night, Sweetheart, Good Night. But I don't have that to play at the moment. So instead, I'm just going to tell you all, I love you. Good night and be blessed. And thank you guys for coming. And that I love you all. Laters.